Hello everyone. Before this episode starts, I'd like to give a huge shout out to my girlfriend for getting a promotion at her job. She's got a team lead position. Woo! Alright, everybody go congratulate her. Her name is Trinity Mays Randall. Again, super proud of her. I'm glad she achieved one of her goals at her job. Again, shouting her out. Congratulations, baby girl. Now back to the podcast episode. And I also forgot to add, but she's also 19. So that's a really huge accomplishment for a 19-year-old. Getting a team lead position where the average team leads at the Walmart that she's at, like in their mid to late 40s. So very good job for her. Hey guys, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. And trust me guys, it works. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. And the best of all, it is totally free. Yes, totally free. So download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Is that any better?
A little bit. Maybe it might sound better. Let me put on my headphones. See if maybe it might sound better having you guys in. Speak again.
Better?
It's still very quiet. I don't know why.
That'd just be my probably.
It just sounds like you have a fan constantly going on in the mic.
Why that is? I'm trying
Hmm.
Yeah. It's probably just like my phone, I'm guessing.
Maybe. I don't have any headphones or anything.
Yeah.
Guess try with those and see maybe. Maybe it could just be your mic just being wonky or some shit.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, much better.
All right, yeah, it's probably
much better.
Probably just my mic then. Yeah, my phone, it's a little rough.
Sounded like it. I mean, once this comes out, you'll see it, you'll hear it. I mean, I guess you'll see and hear it. What I'm talking about how it sounds like you have a fan constantly blowing on it.
Yeah, I don't know. New phone, but it gets a little beat up.
I mean, hey, sometimes shit happens, right?
Yeah.
But how's it been though?
Not bad, Just busting my ass, making money, or trying to.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, you were kind of last minute because I was supposed to have Brandon on here.
Yeah.
Remember Brandon?
Yeah.
Lickens, however the hell you pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
He was supposed to come on, but then he kind of just bailed last minute. He just because I guess he said that he didn't have any more storage on his phone to download the app, and then he was quiet for about 30-40 minutes, and then just straight up says, "I'm sorry, bro, but I don't think I'm gonna do it."
Uh-huh.
And I was like, "What?" It just came out of nowhere, so I was like, "Oh well, no hard feelings." I mean,
yeah, well, stuff happens,
I mean, I don't think didn't want to be that guy that says, "Oh, but why?"
But why?
It's like shit happens. I mean, I'm not gonna be a dick about it.
He seems like he's a busy dude lately, so you never know.
Yeah. And I mean, with his girlfriend and all, I mean, maybe just them living with each other, she may not be comfortable, you know,
Right.
like
Yeah.
feeling like in an interview environment, or maybe even him, he may have not felt comfortable in an interview environment.
Yeah.
And so they probably just said, nah, we'll do it. But
You never know.
yeah. And because I didn't even, with the whole podcast, I didn't even think I'd even start one. And I started it back in June, July.
Yeah.
One of those 2 days.
I got I think it was like a Facebook notification, like, oh, your friend Marco started a podcast, like it. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, because I just said, fuck it. I mean, well, it was because I was just on YouTube, and I never really was a fan of podcasts at first. Like, I was like, it sounds boring. Like,
Yeah.
She wasn't a fan. And then Impulsive with like Logan Paul and them popped up on YouTube one day about Jeffree Star, and I'm like, oh, hey, this seems like an interesting one. And I watched it, and I'm like, hey, this ain't bad. And I just kept watching more of them and others, and here I am. I decided to start one.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to it's like a true crime podcast at work every day. It's called Morbid.
True crime one.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I like it. I mean, I don't know. I've always liked podcasts, though. It's just
my girlfriend. She says it's for old people.
I don't know. It gets you through your day, really. Like me, I work like 10, 11-hour days, and music sometimes is just repetitive. Listen to the same stuff every day. So I'm like, at least a podcast is something different, And they're talking about interesting stuff. And even if it's not interesting, it's kind of cool to hear how other people live their lives, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it is sometimes too, because the constant hearing the same songs, and maybe one day or just a couple days may not be bad, but then after a while you're like, yeah, I kind of want something different. I mean, I want to have my headphones in, but I don't know what to really listen.
Right.
I don't know what to really do, and yeah, I mean, that's how I just kept listening to more podcasts. I listened to Impulsive, Joe Rogan's. This guy, finance guy I watch, Grant Stephan. He has one, and just been listening to more and more. And just try to get ideas on like how I can approach some stuff, maybe some stuff I can improve on. And I believe you are my 30th episode too, so
awesome, even number.
Yeah, so
good stuff.
There you go. Yeah, and it's crazy because I mean, a lot of my episodes is kind of just me. I guess you can just say talking about whatever the hell's on my mind.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I didn't really have a set schedule. It was just kind of like when I felt like it, and I told myself I got to make it a set schedule if I want to. If I want to actually, if people do listen, if I just put one episode Monday, and then out of nowhere next Friday I make one, it's not consistent. It's not like a consistent schedule. So I said I'll try to make it as consistent as possible. And yeah, I mean, I'm 30 episodes deep.
I mean, that was good for you. I mean, like, I think I listened to one or two of your podcasts. Maybe, like, I don't think I listened to it start to finish, but just kind of like even last night, like, my girlfriend, she was like, I was like, yeah, my friend I went to, I was like, told her, I was like, my friend I went to school with wants me to be on his podcast. And so she listened. I don't know which one she listened to, but I know she went to work this morning and was like, yeah, I listened to one of his podcasts. It's pretty, I mean, it's just interesting. Just him talking about his day, basically. I'm like, yeah, I mean.
I kind of see it like Emma Chamberlain's Anything Goes. She kind of just talks whatever's on her mind.
Right.
I don't really have like a topic because, again, listening to like Impulsive, Joe Rogan's, they don't have a specific topic. It's the person they talk with and questions come up. They may have researched them, but questions come up. And I feel like I like that more of a genuine. I like the more genuine type. I don't want it to feel like an interview where
you sit down, answer questions, and that's it. It's like if we can vibe, talk. It sounds to me, I like those types.
Right.
Because you can like feel the vibe, you know.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's how it is. Like I said, I listen to that true crime podcast at work, and even then, it's not just like them going through a serial killer. It's, I mean, they're pretty funny. You know, they don't even just, they're not like, they get through the case, but it's, for the most part, it's them like shit talking the serial killer, like, oh, this dude's a piece of shit. And it's just, you know,
Did
their
you watch
thoughts.
Dahmer?
Oh God, yeah. So we didn't finish it just because, you know, we got to a point where it was like, this is more fucking stupid and funny than it is interesting. Like, but you know, it was good. I mean, I would like on personal on my days off, I watch snippets here and there of it when I have time. And but my girlfriend, she's like, nah. I thought it was gonna be better. I thought it was gonna show all the kills and all this, and I was like, I mean, yeah, but
in a way, I mean, it was kind of, I won't say odd, but it's just kind of one of those things, like, it just hits you in the face. You're like, oh, shit, this isn't like like people talk, like a normal, people talk, like the people who were involved talk, oh, this is what happened, this is how he was. It was, they got a bunch of actors and actresses to basically reenact, start start to finish on everything.
Right.
And then when you look at the actor, how well he portrayed it, almost looking like Jeffrey, you're like, holy shit.
Oh God, he looked so much. Yeah.
He went, like, they really went into detail. But I mean, it's that big money. People watch true crime shows, so it's that.
Oh yeah, it gets people. Well, that's like, you know, we watched the first couple of episodes, and I was like, oh, this is pretty, you know, more about his life and all that. And then, you know, it cuts to one of those scenes, and the cops are looking through the house, and I was like, oh shit, that's a head in a fridge. They just showed that. All right. And I was like, oh, well. But, you know, I think everybody, when they watch stuff like that, they expect it to be like, I want to see the kills, I want to do this. And it's like, well, a lot of the times that's not the point. They just want to get, you know, show you why this dude did what he did. And, you know, and I enjoyed it. It's not like I'm shitting on it by any means, but it's, you know, it got to the point where it's like, oh, this is just goofy. Which, you know, it's a nice break from the real dark stuff that's been coming out on, you know, all these streaming services. And it's like, yeah, this is Jeffrey Dahmer. He killed and ate people, but he was also kind of a dumbass.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, I mean, like I said, we needed something different, like Euphoria. When Euphoria was big on HBO Max, it was a talked about show, and I loved it. My girlfriend and I, we loved it because it shows like the mental states of some teen. I mean, granted, they're not teens, but the age they're trying to reenact.
Right.
Like some of the shit they were going through, you're like, I'm like, you do realize some kids probably go through that shit and how hard it fucking gets them.
Right.
And them having to go through all that, it's like it just seems like nice. Like it seems like a cool show. But when you look at some of the stuff, you're like, well, I mean, this could, like, why is this person the way they were? I mean, this person's got anger issues. Why does this person have anger issues? How does it tie into their relationship?
Right. Yeah, it was one of the shows where, like, before we moved into the apartment we're in now, we are living with my girlfriend, and she had a roommate, and they would watch it, and, you know, every new episode that came out, and, you know, I was like, I get off of work, and I like, oh, you guys watch this stupid show, but then I kind of, it's one of those shows where you find yourself, like, not liking it at first, but the more you're walking through and, like, catching little sounds and, like, scenes of it, and you're like, holy shit, that's actually kind of like, I mean, some of it's way over the top, but then you're like, you know, a lot of high school kids can relate to that, not even just, like, the drugs and stuff, like, the drama and all that, so it's like, well, yeah, and I found myself, like, going from, this is stupid to, holy shit, this is kind of good.
Yeah, you know, just like how you said, I mean, not just the drugs and everything, the drama, the, you know, like, with the guys and the chicks, and you know, it was just interesting. I'm like, wow, HBO Max is showing all this. I know
Yeah.
Netflix wouldn't let it fly.
Oh no.
I'm like,
I don't know.
shit,
I also
HBO
feel though
Max.
that like Netflix has kind of gone just downhill lately. Like,
Did you see everything they're trying to do? I think they said at the beginning of 2023, they're gonna start charging people who share their Netflix
yeah,
passwords.
I think I read that this morning. I was
Yeah,
like, I mean,
and they're gonna add ads. Like on top of that, they're gonna start adding advertisements.
wow.
I think they said 2 to 3 minute ads, but I believe it may have been up to 5 minutes. I am not too sure.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
like, what the fuck?
that's the thing though. Is like, so when we first got Hulu, we just did it with ads. We didn't do that whole like premium without the ads thing, and it was like we would get 30 seconds of the show and then 10 minutes of ads. And I'm like, okay, you know what? We're just going to freaking pay for the no ads because it's stupid. We were trying to watch a movie and it's like, oh, here's 30 seconds of the movie and then boom, 5 minutes of ads just one after the other. I'm like, come on, man. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's just like, eh. But I don't know. Netflix is, I don't know why out of nowhere they're just like, oh, pay for this, pay for that. Because, for the longest time, they were one of those streaming platforms or, things where like people loved it because there wasn't ads. It wasn't that expensive. They can share their passwords, and now they're like, don't do that. We want money. And it's like, you're like still the biggest streaming service in the world. Calm down.
And I believe it's with that, it's also because they've been removing a lot of the good shows, like a lot of shows on what brought people to Netflix. They're removing them, and I mean, some reasons it's because now all these other companies are having their streaming services, and if it was already licensed, those shows, they're like, hey, we have our own. We don't want you sharing. We don't want that on yours anymore.
Right.
And if you do, we'll get a lawsuit involved. So we're taking that to us, and it's like HBO Max. We have it free because with Trinity she has AT&T.
Oh yeah.
With that they give HBO Max free, and so we go and they have a lot of good movies. I'm like, you would never see this shit on Netflix.
Yeah,
you never
exactly.
see this on anything.
Well, that's because, I don't know, that's why I prefer HBO Max, because, a movie comes out in theaters, and then HBO Max is also like, oh, if you don't want to spend all this money at the theaters, we're going to put it on our thing, and it's like, you can watch all these new movies. We're going through and watching, the Halloween movies, the 2018, the newer ones, and we were on Peacock last night, we watched the first one, and we were like, oh wow, they already have the new one out on there. All you have to do is pay $10 a month for their thing and you can watch it. I'm like, okay, cool. And me being the weird super Halloween movie nerd that I am was freaking excited and shitting my pants over it. And of course my girlfriend's looking at me like, you're fucking insane, but whatever. But
I mean, hey, it is what it is. I mean, I know for how I guess the horror-ish vibes. I like the supernatural type of stuff. What's that shit called? Like Annabelle, The Conjuring, all of that.
Oh yeah.
And they have that, and I'm like, I would never find that on Netflix. I would never find that on Hulu. Never find that everywhere else. But HBO Max, they got it. Awesome quality, so it's
yeah. Well, that's the thing is Netflix has become completely dominated by Kevin Hart movies. And don't get me wrong, I love Kevin Hart, but you can only put out so many movies before it's oh, this is just dumb. It's the same
they're
thing.
Just trying to milk him.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, nothing against Kevin Hart. He's talented. He's fucking funny as hell. But, after a certain point, it's okay, give me something. I think that's also why, people freaked out over the Dahmer thing because it was something different. I was like, oh, shit. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not a comedy.
No, I mean, I know. Same with do you know this guy, Fluffy or Gabriel Iglesias?
Love him.
Gabriel Iglesias, and I heard him on the Impulsive show.
I was gonna say, I saw him on that.
Yep. I heard him on that, and I'm like, cool. He finally got a new show out. I loved him. He's fucking funny. But I watched it, and I'm like, it's not his best one for me. He
Yeah.
talked about way too much of COVID. Way too much of COVID. And I'm like, I know. I mean, I think he didn't have a special out for like 2-3 years, but I'm kind of done with COVID. I don't want to hear it anymore. And him bringing it up on a whole special, I'm like, I don't know. It gives me mixed feelings if I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's just what COVID, that's the effect, is like, not only did it, really mess shit up for everybody, it's like now that's what people base their comedy off of, base their shows off of. Like, my girlfriend, she's like big into like Grey's Anatomy, and I was watching with her, and it's like that was a big storyline there. And I'm like, I mean, and I know like like you said, I'm the same way. I'm like, okay, it's over. I mean, it's not completely over, obviously, but it's like it's the big part of it's done. Let's just kind of shift to something else. But you look past COVID, and now there's freaking, what was it, monkeypox going around, and so now they're just like stuck on COVID because they're like, yeah, just stick on this bad thing, because if you look past it, there's way worse. So
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I mean, just like everyone. I mean, here in Lincoln and Omaha, Lancaster and Douglas County, they're like the two biggest counties, obviously, in Nebraska, and two, the heaviest Democratic population of Nebraska. And so, yeah, here it's pushed big time, especially here in Lincoln being a college town. It's pushed on heavily. And it was at that point, it was getting a little bit annoying. I'm like some people would almost look at you disgusted if, let's say, vaccinated, you didn't have to wear your mask.
Yeah.
And so, you take it off, you're like, finally, fucking, I don't have to wear this shit. And people that did would look at you disgusted, like, oh, put it on. You're like, well, it doesn't fix anything.
Yeah. I mean,
it won't do anything. It's
at this point, it's not going to do anything. But like, yeah, that was how it was. Like when I was, I mean, I had to work. I mean, I had to get vaccinated because I was still working corrections at the time, so government job, have to get vaccinated. Otherwise, guess what? Can't work here anymore. And me personally, I got it. I mean, like I have, at the time, my son was like not even a year yet, and I'm like, I ain't risking nothing. I ain't doing none of that. But then you go out and you're not wearing a mask because you get vaccinated. They're like, oh yeah, you don't have to wear a mask anymore. You're safe. And then people are looking at you like, why aren't you wearing a mask? And then you're like, oh, I'm vaccinated. And then that starts a whole new fight because it's like, well, let me see your vaccination card. And you're like, you don't need to. Like,
it's like you're not the cops. Like, why? Me showing you my vaccination card doesn't prove anything.
Right. Like, I mean, like, and there was even that whole thing where people were selling like counterfeit vaccination cards so they could just go into places without wearing a mask. It's like, how do you know mine's not fake? Or how do I know yours isn't? But
yeah, I mean, in restaurants and whatnot, I can just see it. I mean, you're like, I'm hungry. Here it is. Let me in. But when it comes to, like, I guess the real deal, they're like, oh, hey, I mean, this and this. And so what Walmart does is they have the digital one, as I don't even have it on my phone anymore. But they had, like, a digital one where you didn't have to have your card, where it has a QR code and it also shows the dates that you've done it. And I'm like, well, I prefer to have this rather than carry this card, like a passport, because it's kind of stupid. I almost have to rely on this in order to be let into buildings, be doing this.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to attend a concert? Have the card on you. If you don't have the card on you, you can't come in.
Right. Yeah, that's how it was.
But yet cramp us all in a space. Like, that makes sense.
Right. But as long as you have that mask on, you're good. I mean, don't get me wrong. By no means am I shitting on, like, I 100% was taking precautions. I had COVID myself. It fucking sucks. I'm not saying it's not real, but at this point, almost, like, I don't even know what the statistic is, but like a high percentage of the country is vaccinated. But like, I mean, my girlfriend, she has a friend who I mean, he won't let you go anywhere around him unless you're wearing a mask. Like, he won't come into your, if he knocks on your door to come in to hang out and you're not wearing a mask, he's like, no, I'm not coming in. And it's like, that's what COVID did to people. Kind of, freaked them out to that point where it's like, oh, we could die. And like, yeah, you could. But if you really look at it, you can die of the flu too. But you don't see people freaking out about a mask when you say, oh, I got the flu. It's like, oh, you'll be fine.
Yeah. I mean, I believe statistically they even said the survival rate was like over 90% because the only ones that really affected, obviously, like any other disease, like the flu and everything, young children, older people, or people with underlying diseases, or obesity, heart problems. Obviously, something like that is going to get you worse. I mean, and they'll throw in the card of, well, this healthy person got sick too, meaning anyone can get sick. I'm like, you're throwing this very small chunk of people. They may have gotten, let's say they were healthy, they got sick, cool, but they recovered.
Right.
Some may have not, sad for them, but a majority of them recovered. Why aren't you talking about the recovered people?
Right. Well, that's the thing that got me is like anytime like when COVID was huge, I'd open any type of news thing and it's like, yeah, like on the lines of what you were saying, healthy people are getting it too. Are healthy people, like, I mean, I work out here and there. I consider myself healthy. I mean, it's not like I sit on my ass all day. I consider myself healthy. I don't eat out all the time. Am I just never going to get sick? Like, just because you have a healthy lifestyle doesn't mean you can't get sick. I mean, you have people who run marathons and then they end up with cancer. It's like, just because you're healthy doesn't mean you're going to avoid every disease known to mankind,
Yeah. I mean, and also people who have like the best immune systems, even when they get the simple cold, they're the ones that it looks like they're overreacting. They're like, oh, I don't feel good. And this, it's like, it's a simple cold. Like,
right.
I have a shitty immune system. And so I'm like, when I get sick, but I'm like, I'm gonna die. I'm like, I'm used to this shit.
Right.
And I know they said people with bad immune systems wouldn't do well with it, but I also kind of feel like not, because if their bodies are used to getting sick so much that they may already have a higher chance of, maybe yes they get sick, but a higher chance of recovering compared to someone who doesn't get sick regularly and their bodies don't know what to do because they're not used to it, and that could be why they're trying to say these healthy people got sick and died. It's made because they never got sick, so their bodies never had the opportunity to adapt.
Right, and that's how, I mean, like, I don't get sick a lot, like, really sick. I mean, I can handle a cold, but, like, if my throat starts hurting, I'm the biggest baby. I'm like, oh, I need medicine, I need this, I need that, and, like, my girlfriend's looking at me, and she gets sick very easy, and so she's looking at me like, well, why are you being a crybaby? And I'm like, dude, I'm never sick, so it sucks for me.
I mean, it happens, but your throat hurts or some shit. Get some tea or some nice hot soup.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
that shit heals wonders.
Well, that's the thing. Is like that's what I tell my girlfriend, and obviously, I mean, as you know, you grew up in a Hispanic family. We have weird shit to fix sicknesses, But, like, she's like, well, because, like, when we were sick growing up, my mom would give us, like, honey and a little shot of whiskey because it would warm our body up. And I told her that, and she was like, well, your mom should go to jail because she's giving, she's giving a child alcohol. And it's like, no, you're not getting a shot. You're just getting, like, a spoonful. It's not like you're getting shit-faced. And she's like, why? And I was like, I don't know. They grew up in a Hispanic family and said their parents did it for them. I don't know if that's all Hispanic families by any means, but, each culture has some shit to fix their sicknesses. And, not a lot of people get it. Like, I can't even think of any other examples, but I'm sure there's something out there where, like, but I'm also very, like, if you tell me, oh, you stubbed your toe, go put it in a cup of milk, because my culture does that, I'd be like, okay, I'll try it, whatever. But, some people, If it works, it works. But some people have those things where they grew up on. It's just their culture or their heritage, and it's like, oh, okay. I mean, like that's why I'm never like, oh, that sounds weird. I'm not going to do it because one, you don't know if that's just them saying it or their culture, so you don't want to be like, oh, you're fucking stupid. I'm not doing it, and then you come to find out that, oh well, you know, my family's been doing it and their family's been doing it forever, and it's like, oh, I didn't mean to insult. So now I'm just kind of like, okay, I'll try it.
That's why some people in those type of cultures, they and even people here in the U.S. they don't, unless it's really really bad, they don't really like the fact of using just like simple drugs like the ibuprofens,
Right.
the acetam, whatever the hell you pronounce it, like those, because they're like, obviously pain relievers, but it's like, why not use the natural herbs that probably give you the same effect, if not maybe even better,
Right.
and help you. And that's why so many, when I listen to Joe Rogan's, they're talking about how more and more people in the States are trying to push to legalize marijuana.
Right.
I mean, Nebraska's going to be very hard. I'm just going to say that. It's going to be very hard for Nebraska to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get too into the politics crap because that's just not who I am. But Nebraska is, without naming names, but our government people are not the brightest.
I mean, they're bald, so I guess that's a plus.
Yeah, they're bald. I'm not going to say a name, but
But, did it come to a shock when Scott Frost got fired?
I mean, to a lot of people around me, they're like, well, because like my girlfriend, she watches it, but she doesn't understand it. Her grandpa, that I love the guy to death. We have these anytime something big in football happens, I call him. I'm like, hey, did you see this? But we were helping her friend move. And she was like, oh, check your phone. So I checked my phone. Scott Frost was fired, and she was freaking out. I'm kind of like, I mean, kind of had to see it. I didn't think it was going to happen halfway through the season. But, I figured it was going to happen. I mean, there was a bunch of stories coming out about him, how his recruiting was shitty and he just didn't care. But, I feel for the guy. He had a lot of pressure. He was a hometown kid, and he was expected to come in and be like that's, I think that's what Nebraska fans have a problem with, is like, we're stuck in the 80s when we were freaking great. And they're like, oh, we need to do that. We need to be like that again. And it's like, I mean, yeah, we do, but it's not going to happen right away,
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think the coach that they have now, their interim head coach, is doing great.
Mikey, he's doing pretty good. I've seen a difference this first month with him.
Right.
I've seen a difference in the team.
He's a good motivator. You know that because like a lot of the times they'd be down, coming into the fourth quarter, and they would just be like, okay, we're losing, whatever. But like even this last game, they were down, and then I was like, all right, screw it, I'm not going to watch this game. Then we went out to the bar to get a couple drinks, and the game was on. I'm like, holy shit, they're like a touchdown behind. What the hell happened? But he's good. He keeps them motivated. I just our defense is not the best. Our offense,
you can tell it was just back and forth. Purdue scored, Nebraska scored. Purdue scored, Nebraska scored. But then when you see the defense, you'd see like basically Nebraska could have won the Purdue game.
Oh,
when
yeah.
the QB basically almost jumped over one of the defenders. It's like that caused the game, because since he had the guy never broke down, so he missed a tackle, and the QB was able to run up. I mean, if you remember back in football, I mean, you weren't in football, but the stories you'd hear, JJ would fucking be on our asses on that for not breaking down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even remember who you guys were playing, but I remember hearing him, like, we were on the fucking field, and you can hear him yelling at you guys. And I'm like, oh, shit, he's not happy.
Like,
but
God,
I don't know.
Freshman through junior year, it was horrible, and then our senior year, we did better than my brother's senior year, because my brother's senior year, they were close like us, but we won more games.
Mm-hmm.
And it was crazy. to see all that, and then graduating and just seeing how far the team, how low the team's gone.
Well, see, that's where, like, you know, I would say Minutair is a sports town, or at least it was, like when we were there, it was like whatever. And, it's like, I was always so afraid of like, oh, what the hell's going to happen? And no insults to any of the kids that were behind us by any means, but you look at them and you're like, they're more band, one act, choir, but like I said, I keep an eye on it. I follow Minutair's Facebook page, and I'm like, you got some fucking athletes there. Just, now there's Minutair's focus has shifted from, sports to other stuff, and it's like they don't really get the attention that they would have, 3-4 years ago, which sucks because like.
Oh, my bad. You can go.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it sucks because, like I said, there's some damn good athletes on there if you really look into it.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's like how you said when we were there and how much we dominate in especially football. Basketball was always just in the midway. So we didn't have our game.
Yeah, basketball was always good or bad.
It was we had our ups and downs, but football, it being our dominating season, we were always the headlines. But now that they're not the dominating teams anymore. They're like, well, let's focus on. Because I know when I was in high school, they barely even focused on FFA. Now I actually see them post about FFA.
Oh, yeah.
Post about the other stuff. And I'm like, I never had any of that happen when I was in high school because it was just sports.
Right.
And that is it. If you're not in sports, you were looked down on. And even if you were in sports, if you weren't the top player, if you weren't the athletic player,
right.
You're like, oh, well. Let's focus on Ephraim. Let's focus on Caleb. Let's focus on Isaac.
Let's
focus on Quentin since he's tall and he can catch. It's like,
yeah, and I think
it's like
that's where. Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. No, I know like my senior year. That's where a lot of my frustration came from. Like I wasn't by any means. I'm not saying I was the best player on the basketball team. There was 100% a few people ahead of me. But, and I have, I've kind of, in the moment, I was a very angry high schooler. I was mad at a lot of people, a lot of things. And as soon as I graduated, I'm like, this is bullshit. Let it go. Kind of flourished into this guy who's like, yeah, you pissed me off, but I don't hate you. But that's how it is. Like, in my senior year, it was like, there's a couple of guys that were on the teams that were seniors with me, and they were like, oh, this is stupid, because why are, like, these younger guys getting all the attention? We're the seniors. And it's like, and the moment I was mad, too, but, like, now it's like, well, I don't think we would have gotten that far without the Caleb or the Quentin and all that stuff, And we wouldn't have been, like, I mean, my last basketball game, we went to double overtime. That was my last high school basketball game, and I don't even think without Caleb or Q, we would have even gone to one overtime. It would have been fourth quarter done. And, looking back on it now, it's like, yeah, that game sucked because we lost, but I wouldn't have wanted, you want to, like, I want to go to state, I want to do this, or at least get to state. And my last game is, we lost our first game at state, but we got there. Me, personally, we lost to Layton in double overtime. And, I remember, like, the final buzzer went off, and I was just kind of standing there on, half court, like, oh, shit, that's it, man, I'm done. That's it, I'm done. And, like, looking back on me now, it's like, just be happy. Like, that was a hard-fought game. Like, I don't think, like, I think James walked out of there with, like, a broken nose or something. Like, I had, like, a bruised rib, all sorts of messed up, and I was like, I wouldn't have had it any other way. We fought. But like you said, now it's FFA, and, like, even more so, I would go as far to say Minutair is like a volleyball school now, because anytime I look at it, it's volleyball, and then, football. Yep. Football's there too. And I'm like, high school me's like, why are they getting all the attention? But adult me's like, good for them. Those girls work hard and they kick ass. Good for them. They need the attention too. But, I do got to say, like I said, as an adult now out of high school with different outlook, I'm kind of glad to see that, FFA, choir, bands getting all the attention because, and I forget her name, and I'm sorry, the band teacher.
Stacy Stalers.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really have the best relationship when I was there. I mean, I stopped doing band because of her, and I was a devil child to her, which I regret because she really was a decent human being. But she does a lot for them, and she deserves the recognition she's getting. And it's hard to be that good of a teacher and teach at somewhere like Minutair, somewhere small, But I know the community appreciates not only her, but you got guys, teachers like Foster and Mrs. Escom and all them who are just buckled down and in it for the long run. And I know I attribute a lot of my quote unquote success now to like Mr. Foster, because he really drilled, if you want something, go fucking get it, and it's not going to come to you. And that's kind of the mindset I have now. And, I attribute that to him. We were very lucky where we were a small town. We had teachers who cared. A lot of people looked at it as, oh, you're weird because your teachers are involved in your lives. And it's like, okay, yeah, I can see how that's weird, but they're not directly involved. But if you have a problem in your personal life, they're going to help you.
Yeah. Because, I never really was, like, close to teachers. But, I can totally understand because, a lot of them, it was also me. I was a quiet guy. If I talked, I talked and whatever, but I wasn't never, like, the athlete. Yeah, people looked at me as the top student, but it's not because, I was the smartest guy. It's like I may have just been book smart or whatever.
Right.
But when it came to, like, education, a lot of times that's where, like, me, Jackie, Haley, like Kaisha, and all of us would get the recognition. But then when it came to sports, more people were getting the praise and recognition when it came to that.
Right.
And sometimes it's like, like with Ephraim, when he was all over, he broke the state record. The high school record for shot put. I'm like, oh, perfect. Like, I'm glad, and this and whatever. And, him getting a lot of the recognition, it's like a lot of that is going to get in their heads when they graduate, because having all that attention, they're going to expect everything to get handed to them.
Right. And
some people like to follow their journey, and
right.
And kind of, what happened.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're not gonna point out specifics, but what we thought was gonna happen. We didn't think that was gonna happen, but we all kind of knew that it was gonna go to his head. But and again, that's the thing, is it's very much like me. I was at state track with Ephraim every year. I was there. I was competing for state recognition, but because Ephraim was this close to breaking our school record, focus shifted from me to him, and people don't realize that at my senior year district track, I couldn't run my 2 mile because I had heat exhaustion. 800 came around. I was pissed off. I was annoyed that, oh yeah, Ephraim's going to state. And I'm like, hell no, this kid is not. And don't get me wrong. Then before, we knew who the whole Ephraim thing, I considered Ephraim a friend, a good friend. That we went to state with each other the year before. We got to know each other, and I was like, hell no, that kid is not going by himself and getting all this recognition. And then I qualify for state, people not realizing that I was 2 seconds away from breaking the school record. And, at the time it bothered me, but the more that, it went on, I was like, whatever. Senior year, I got to go to state, whatever.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter. Like now, like how you said, now that we're adults. I'm 21, gonna be 22 here in February. It's like, and I still sometimes look back and I'm like, wow, a lot of the shit I did in high school does not matter.
It really,
I focused so heavy on it in high school, thinking I was gonna be a loser, a bum, because I wasn't the top athlete, I wasn't the most talked about, and I come into adult life. It's like a lot of those people that were a little more talked about, I barely see them active on Facebook anymore, active on Instagram anymore. They're just working, doing their own thing, and it's like, wow, none of that shit mattered. ACT, people would talk about the ACT a lot.
Yeah, that was
a bunch of shit. Like college, WNCC. Shadron, all this other stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, this and this. As I got older, as I've been wanting to get more of an entrepreneurial mindset, which is
Right.
why I'm starting to get my license to be a real estate agent, so then I can learn real estate like that, so then I can build my real estate portfolio. I have the podcast and other stuff I have planned, and I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read it and I'm like, it just opened my mind much differently. I'm like, you know what? Honestly, like I'm not a person that says don't go to college, but I'm like, when it comes to financial education, when you look at that differently, you're like, wow, it's. I looked at stuff differently, and I'm like, wow, everything I learned in school kind of doesn't mean shit, because really, I'm not saying everyone needs to be a millionaire or whatever. I'm not saying that everyone needs to. I mean, everyone would love to have $1 million. They open their bank app and boom, $1 million.
Right.
It'd be the dream of everyone. But then when you realize how none of that's taught in school, you're like, wow. You kind of open your eyes and you're like, wow.
That's one of the things that I read. I don't even remember where I read it. I was probably just in some stupid magazine, but this guy said, you know, a lot of these people who are successful are working minimum wage on $1 million mindset. And I'm like, that hits me, because it's like, I don't have to be making $1 million a year. As long as up here, I'm thinking like a millionaire, whatever. Because I mean, I agree with you. The whole don't go to college thing. I'm not vouching for that. Like, I'm not saying, oh, don't go to college, you don't need it, because some people do. Some people take it and run with it. Like me, I took almost 2 years, and then I quietly went through school. Nobody knew about my life. Like, I still meet people that I went to school with or I was close with in school who's like, you had a kid, or you did this, you did that, and I'm like, yeah. And like, that's the thing, is I went through school, I got a degree in criminal psychology and forensics investigation through Colorado State. Nobody knew. But that's the thing, is like, that goes back to the high school thing, because me in high school, I was looked at as an athlete. I quietly graduated with a 3.4 GPA. I got a 24 or 25 on my ACT. I was by no means looked at as the smartest kid in my damn class. If anything, I was looked at as one of the fucking dumbest, because I came off that way, Yeah. And, I think then in high school, it's like you focus so much on who you are and how, like me, I was like, I got to get a scholarship out of here. Like, obviously my smarts ain't going to do it, so I got to do this and that. And like, don't get me wrong, I got a couple of offers to go run places. Like, Doan wanted, like, briefly talk to me about basketball, so did Shadron State. And, I was like, yeah. But as soon as I graduated, everything kind of hits you. You have those moments where you're like, by yourself, like, holy shit, what do I do now? Like, especially after you move out of your parents' house and it really hits you, and you're like sitting there like, what the hell do I do? And like, I was looking back on it, and I was like, I really wish in high school I was known as the smart kid. And and like you said, you weren't looked at as athletic. And like, I know personally, because I really, we got to see each other grow up. We went to that school you were only a year behind me, and it's not like by any means like I always loved everything you did. Never had any hatred. I wasn't ever like, Marco, but
Yeah.
I was like, if people were like, oh, what do you think of Marco in high school? I'm like, oh, he's really smart. That's the first thing I'd say. Oh, that kid's fucking smart. But you look back now, and it's like me, I was like, I wish that I would have shown people that I was quietly more intelligent than I came off. Because, after you graduate, you get people who are like, obviously I graduated high school and I did the stupid ass partying myself out. Like, I'm 22 years old. I don't even like going to the bar because I'm partied out. I'm like, nah. But like, people would be like, huh, you didn't go to college, this and that. And I'm like, damn, I wish you would have known how smart I really was, and you'd get it. But, it's too late. And now in life, it's like, and like I was telling you, like I worked corrections for a long while. I promoted up, and as I was getting my degree, it really helped pay for that and cover that. And then I got a good job down here in Kearney, and has nothing to do with what. And that's the thing, like you said, like college doesn't really matter because I got a degree in criminal justice, and I'm working a great job building engines for people's custom cars, and loving
so it's
every
like,
second of it. So
that's
and it's like the thing you said. It's like you read books, you read this, you read that, and you're like, yeah, man, that's what I want to do, and I'm going to do it. And people like you stay motivated. It's like, yeah, no, this is what I want to do. I want to do it. And that's what I like with your whole podcast idea thing. I was like, I saw it and I was like, man, good for you, man, good for you. And it's not like you go into these things like expecting to blow up right away. Some people do, but and that's why like I loved your idea of like, that's why I was like, yeah, man, I'll be on it for you. And like, cool, because it's like, one, I'm supporting a friend. I'm all about it. If you're like, oh, hop on my Twitch stream with me and do this, I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, man, whatever you need. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm willing to hop on there and just kind of fucking bullshit and talk about life. But it's something that you wanted to do. I don't feel like you put out your first podcast and was like, yes, this is going to get 50 billion listens in my first week, and I'm going to be rich.
Yeah.
It's just something you wanted to do. You sat there, I want to do a podcast. Cool, whatever. So you did it. I mean, I can tell you, like,
the only one.
Like I have a lot of appreciation for that because, like me, if I want to do something, I'm like, nah, I don't want to, just because it's like, what if people don't like it? You just went out there and did the damn thing. You were like, yeah, fuck, I don't care if anybody likes it or not. I want to do it. This is more for me than it is for them, And that's kind of the mindset you got to have. If you want to do it, go fucking do it. Who cares if you get 20 views or 20 million? Just do your thing. If it makes you happy and you enjoy it, do it.
Yeah, because like with the whole podcast, I'm like, I talk a lot. My girlfriend always says I talk too much. So I said maybe that could be a great attribute for being on a podcast. Because I talk a lot, that could be a good qualification on to do it. And one of my goals is, because nothing really much comes out of Nebraska, and I'm like, Nebraska's not going to be my permanent residency to stay in. But if I could become the podcast that came out of Nebraska, that'd be just already a big achievement. Where it's like, you got all these big ones, but they're all like based in California or like New York, Florida, Texas, states that people were like, well, obviously California, obviously this state.
Right.
But it's like, oh yeah, I know this podcast and it came out of Nebraska. Who the fuck lives in Nebraska?
Right. And, well, that's the thing is like, even I get excited where like I'll be on like TikTok and there's this girl. Yeah. There'll be a couple of big people from Nebraska, not like people that are celebrities by any means, but pretty decently big TikTokers. And I can't think of any names, otherwise I'd give them a quick shout out. But there's a few where I'm scrolling and like there's got their captions like, oh, gotta love living in Nebraska, and I go and click on it and it's like from North Platte. They're from Lincoln. And I'm like, holy shit. Look at you guys go, represent Nebraska. And then, like, you're looking through the comments and you get to see people from, like, Bluffs. I saw a couple people from Bluffs, like, oh, Scotts Bluff here, cool, I live in Nebraska, too. I'm like, holy shit. Like, that's what I think I like about Nebraska. Like, California, you're expected. You put something out, it's kind of expected to blow up. Because it's like, oh, I'm from California. And when people from Nebraska even so much as get an ounce of a little bit of, like, 15 seconds of fame, the people are really behind it. It's like, good for you, represent Nebraska, good job. It's never any hate. I mean, you get the one or two there who's like, oh, why are you doing this? This is stupid, but that's on anything in life, really.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I think it's cool. I mean, especially if you keep this up, and like I said, I'm fully supportive. I'm gonna start listening to everything you put out. You start a YouTube, I'll watch every video. You start this, I'll do that. I'll support in any way I can. But you blow up, I'm gonna be like, one, I was on the podcast, I was the backup option. Fuck yeah, let's get it. Yeah. And two, that's I know the kid. He's from Nebraska, and good for fucking him. Really, like, awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's really how it is. Like you said, because California, I watch a lot of YouTube. and it's like this person all living in Cali or this person in NYC. They talk about rent in New York City, like $3,000 a month, and it's a 400 square foot apartment. I'm like,
Yeah.
I have like a
Right.
720, I think 7 something square foot apartment here in Lincoln for about $1,000 a month, and it's a good, like, this right here would go for like 4 or 5,000 in like New York City or LA, and they glorify the $2,000-3,000 a month or even 4. I'm like, how is that glorifying? Like, this shit feels good. I'm like,
You're right. Like,
$1,000 a month for I think it's 780 square foot apartment for some shit that would cost 4,000 in LA. I'm like, fuck no.
right, and like we moved it, like where we were living before, we were paying $1,500, but that was split between me, my girlfriend, her roommate, and then there was one other random ass roommate that lived there with them when I moved in, and that was split 4 ways, so it was easy. And then we found our own place after our lease was up, and her roommate stayed, and we were like, nah, we're gonna get our own place, whatever. And we pay $800 a month for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, and it's a nice ass apartment. I mean, nice as you can get in Kearney. But and that's the thing is, like, Kearney's a quote unquote college town. It's not Lincoln big, obviously, but it's like we were looking at apartments and people are like putting apartments up for rent for like 1 bedroom, 1 bath for $1,500 a month, and we were like, oh shit, that's expensive for a 1 bath. But then like you said, you look at like New York, like that TikToker who's like, oh, how much is your rent? If that apartment would have been in New York, that apartment would have been easily $4,000. And it's like, oh shit, well, and it's not even that it's nice. It's New York City. They can charge what they fucking want, and people will pay it. That's the thing.
Yeah. Because it's New York City. Because they can tell people I live in New York City.
Right.
And that's where, and then with, like I said, with the whole, like, like starting a bunch of shit, and then like wanting to learn real estate, because I want to learn real estate because a lot of successful people that I know, do real estate. And once I like look into a bunch of other stuff, like with like rent and just a bunch of other stuff, I'm like, it makes more sense now why stuff like this happens, why they charge this much for rent. It's not because they want to. Sometimes they gotta follow the math in order to make a profit, because if the housing market is going down, but they're still charging you, they may charge you cheaper, but they're still charging you X amount of money, but they're losing money, and you may think this is expensive. It's like, well, the person that is renting it to you, and they're losing more money, and just looking through a bunch of other stuff, I'm like, wow, I never would think close to 4 years later, graduating, I'd think of anything. Hell, I went to UNL to do computer science, and I fucking failed out my first year because not that computer science wasn't interesting. It was just kind of something I forced myself into,
right?
And I wasn't really liking it, and I just kind of wanted to deal something with business, but I didn't want to work up in the company, like just rank up in the company and do it that way. I'm like, I want to start my own thing,
right?
And be my own boss, control everything, so then I can control how much money I can make. So then, it's me. I can hire people, have a small team, pay them well,
right?
And we live a good life. I got a great team behind me. They're getting paid well. They don't have to worry about ranking up because I'm basing it off of X, Y, and Z. And like, I want to do that rather than kind of just work up in the company, because I'm like, I don't want to retire 65 and be like, oh, I finally retire. It's like, if I have the funds when I'm in my 40s, I'm like, at this point, I can just kind of do what I want. I can relax. I can.
And when you're 65, and when you're 65 and you retire, like what all are you gonna do? At that point, your body's fucking broken down, tired of doing stuff. So when you retire, you just want to sit at home you open your own business, it's successful, or even not even opening your own business, but you have a chance to where you can retire in your 40s and be comfortable. That's where it's ideal because you're still young enough to go do shit, take vacations. You know, you have kids, play with your kids without your fucking hips breaking when you stand up. But you know, it's all just, I guess, dependent. Like I feel you on the whole like not wanting to work up thing. I've been there where like working corrections. You know, you start off on the lowest level, but you know it's a government job, so you know it's paid good. It's real good. Can't complain. Never have any complaints about corrections. I'll always talk highly of it. But you know, then you promote up, and then you promote up, and it's like, to me, you know, and I see your point of view where it's like, you know, why work up if I can just do it this way? And that's how I would ideally want to do it. But there's people like me who it's like when I work up and someone comes and tells me, hey, guess what? Promotion, you did a great job. I'm like, awesome, cool. My fucking work paid off, good. But then I get home and I'm like, you know, this would have been a lot easier if I just, one, applied for a higher position because I'm qualified, or two, just fucking did it on my own, you know? But, you know, some people just don't see it that way because, you know, they grow up in, you know, like we grew up in Bluffs and Minutair. It's all old school type parents where it's like, you know, you bust your ass off from the ground up, you know? But we're from a generation where it's like, yeah, but why do that if we can fucking, I'm the company, I make the company, and I start off as, and like, you know, and people like my dad, I'm like there's been times where I'm like, you know what, I kind of want to open like me and Evan, you know, I don't know if you remember Evan, but you know, we were talking about, and we were very close to opening up like a mechanic shop and Bluffs, you know, because it's like we were like this is shit that we like to do. This is a passion, you know, and you know he was at the time, you know, he knew I was going through school for you know criminal justice, and he was like, yeah, but it's not in your degree. And it's like, I don't care, because if I can open a business or work somewhere where it's my passion, I'm gonna fucking love my life, you know. And you know, I mean, obviously, you know, it fell through. I moved to Kearney, but honestly, in the long run, that's something I'd like to do. You know, even if it, you know, sucks that I'm in my 40s and I can't retire in my 40s because I'm barely opening this company. I'd still, if I get a shot at it, I'd do it. But
I mean, yeah, it's like how Joe Rogan said, okay, that's in the past. You're right now. Do it now.
right,
But,
exactly,
you know, it's like you can't. If you didn't do it back then, no, I'm sorry. Sorry you couldn't do it, but you're in right now. Do it now.
right,
And that's because my biggest goal, like my number one biggest goal, is to be a millionaire by the age of 30. And talking with a lot of these people in the real estate business, I talked with this guy's name's Adam Briley. He's the founder of the Briley team in Omaha. They're like the number one team in Omaha. And I was able to actually talk with the guy. And, you know, he also, again, recommended me the book that I read, The Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and a bunch of other stuff. And I told him my goal. And he's like, for your age, for how young you are, he's like, I can see you doing it no matter what. Like, for your plan and your drive that you are telling me that you have, and not like nowhere. You'll be doing it just fine. Like, just set yourself smaller goals so you know how to reach the bigger goal. Because if you're going to try to shoot for the bigger goal but not have any small goals, you're going to be scrambled. You're going to be lost on how to reach the big goal. But it's because you're not giving yourself a small goal to reach.
right. You know, and that's one thing. Like my dad raised us on is like set small goals and then one big goal at the end. Because if you keep achieving these small goals, you're going to stay motivated. Because like, holy shit, I'm fucking winning. I'm getting all these goals, and then when you get to the big one, it's like you have that motivation, you have that drive. It's like, I did all of this to get here. It worked. Now time for the big goal, and then you get it, you know? And that's a good mindset to have. And, you know, that's why it's, you know, cool talking to you, because you're very motivated, you know? It's like, I believe you can do it. You know, you stay on the right track. It can't go wrong from my view, you know? And like, even if you get to that point, like you have this ultimate goal, like me, I've had goals to where when I was working corrections, I wanted to be right under lieutenant by then. Didn't work out at the time I wanted it to. And then, you know, I made the move up here because I accepted a really good job. But yeah, it bummed me out. But then I was like, just because I didn't promote by the age I wanted to, I was probably going to promote next year. And, that's the thing. It's like people who can not accomplish their goals but still stay motivated, I think very highly of, because it's like me in that situation, if I set this goal and I didn't accomplish it, I'd be like torn apart. But then you have people who like you, if a goal doesn't work out, you're like, okay, fuck it, rework it, on to the next one. We'll get that one. World needs more people like that, because it's like it's just crazy, man.
Yeah, and like one of the biggest ones, which I've gone through these stages with, like, when it comes to mental health, because you beat yourself so down on reaching that goal where if you don't get it, you just beat the living hell out of your mind to where you think you're a failure. You're like, well, why even try anymore? I'm not going to get it. And so then you want to revert back to the old life, and you're like, but then you kind of sit down and talk to yourself. You're like, you started it. You can do it if you wanted to do it. Okay, like, let's say, like, shit happened at work that really tore you apart mentally, and so you just quit the job without any explanation. And it's like, yes, you're struggling to pay bills now because of that, but it's like, look into it, see why you're going through that, because that's going to build you up to do something else that'll completely get you to where you want to be. And so, 'cause I'm not saying that life is all rainbows and butterflies.
Right.
That's not life.
Yeah.
But it's like, to me, the people who go through the toughest moments, like, again, when it comes, like, mentally, just one of the toughest moments where it's just not like an easy ride, where you look at them, you're like, oh, they gone to school, they're salaried at 50, 60K. No, they're living their life, so you think they're doing better, and you're going through the shithole, you're going through all the bad shit. But I'd rather I like seeing the person who goes through struggle. It's like, okay, they haven't, committed suicide. They haven't ended their life. So what are they doing that is still making them go? And having that drive, I trust them more to run to, like, let's say, them be on my team, because if we're in a shithole and they know how to survive when they were in a shithole, then they know how to get us out. They know how to work as a team to get out of that shithole. And and that's why, like in school, I hated of just do this, like, kind of like, this is life, stick to it. This is what you do in life, stick to it. It's like, well, I don't want to. Like, what if I want to do this? I want to do more. Will I have to go through a lot of struggles? Yes. But I don't want to live the basic life. I want to take the risk, because I know I can reach it. So then I can be living the life I want, not rather than hoping I can live the life I want, but I can't do it. Because I'm living the basic life. And again, I'm not talking bad on people that want to. I mean, everyone has their different goals and dreams. I don't shit on people that work their jobs. And like I told my girlfriend, because she tells me, she's like, are you gonna look down on me when you're a millionaire? I'm like, no, if you're a CPS worker, if you're making $25 an hour, $30 an hour, I'm not gonna look at you differently. I'm gonna just love you like how like when I first met you. Like, I'm not gonna belittle you and say, oh, why don't you have this Maserati like I do? It's like, no, like, I'll gift you a fucking nice ass car. I'll gift you your dream car. But I don't ever want you to think, oh, now that you made it, you're gonna belittle me. It's like,
and
no, I don't want to shit on anyone. Like I don't want to be looked at like, oh, you made it, now you're gonna talk shit about people who bust their ass off. It's like, no, like, I know people who are extremely underpaid, and it saddens me, because, like, holy shit, I know these hard ass workers who bust their ass off and are only making $16 an hour, while the high school kid who comes in late, is chewing gum, is on their phone 24/7, gets paid the same amount, and they don't they're not doing it. They're not doing the hard work that this person's doing, and so it's like,
Right. And I mean, that's
like I
how,
don't.
that's what I've noticed a lot is like, I have a couple of friends down here who, they're like servers, or bartenders or whatever. And I have one, couple specifically where one's making a good amount of money, he doesn't make any less than I do, but he never has money. And it's like, why? And then one of my other buddies who's a server at Applebee's always has money. And it's not like, and I don't ever like, when I was working corrections, obviously like government jobs, even people who've never worked a government job know damn well they take care of you money wise, health wise. You're never going to be struggling. And I got to a point where, and again, I don't brag about money, but I got to a point where I was making so much money, I didn't know what to fucking do. I was literally like, I was paying my bills. Because before that, I would have to tell my landlord, hey, I'm late on rent because I don't have the money for it. Not because I spent something stupid, because I'm accepting these stupid jobs where I'm not able to get rent. And then it got to the point where I was paying all my bills on the first of every month. And I'm like, okay, now what? And so I just wouldn't touch my money because I didn't know what to fucking do with it. And then come to now, I have all this, a good savings account. I have all this, I have all that. And you look back on it and it's like, and it's like what you were saying, we graduate high school and we have people expecting you to do this, go bust your ass off and get this hardworking job. Like for me, my family was like, I graduated and it was either go to school or go work at the railroad with my dad. And I didn't want to fucking work at the railroad. I was like, that sucks. One, they lay off everybody. No shit talk to anybody who works at the railroad because those motherfuckers work hard. But I was like, that sucks, And so I did something like even unexpected to me. One, I enlisted in the Marines, half-assed and stupid, like an 18-year-old dumbass would do. And then I sat there and I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. And I literally got canceled my contract like a month before I was supposed to go to basic. I panicked, texted my recruiter, was like, hey man, I can't fucking do it. Like I did it half-assed. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have made this promise. I'm sorry. And he was like, you know what, man? A lot of kids do it. And he goes, go find something you fucking love to do and do it. He goes, this isn't it. Obviously, if you change your mind, you can come back. But right now, obviously, this wasn't it. And he was like, good for you for realizing it. And then, I did something my family didn't expect. I did something friends didn't expect. I fucking got a job working corrections. And everybody's like, what? What the hell?
I was even like, corrections?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
Well, that's the thing, yeah, because we were working at freaking Walmart together when I left, when I got hired there. And, everybody was like, wow, good for you, all this and that. And, and it literally, I was like, I don't want to work at Walmart for the rest of my life. And no shit talk to people who do. I've known people who worked at Walmart their entire lives and are very successful and very, have a good amount of money and are well taken care of and stuff. But, and like you said, it's just not for me. I wanted to do something that, one, surprised the hell out of people, and two, it was a risk for me and it kept me excited. Like corrections, it's not like what you find is every day is different from the last. They tell you in academies, like, don't, we're not trying to scare the shit out of you from working here, but just know that there's risk is real. And every day you come to work might be the last time you do come to work, So when you wake up in the morning, kiss your loved ones, tell them you love them, because you don't know what's going to fucking happen. And something about that was like, this is an exciting job, It keeps me on my toes. Does this, does that, But I took the path that wasn't expected, and it worked. I took a risk because I 100% could have just flaked out and not been good at my job. And for some reason, I took this risk that I hadn't even looked into corrections before I applied. I was like, good money, whatever, apply. And took the risk, and it worked out. I took care of me. It took care of my, my family at the time. And then, now it's taking care of the family that I have now. And, it's really good. Taking a risk sometimes pays off. But I also am a firm believer that if you're not really taking a risk, you're not really living your life, And, some people, like you said, bust your ass off. It works out. But I'm not someone who's okay with just making $50,000 a year and, you know, buying a nice, cute house, whatever. And I by no means want a fucking mansion, but if I'm going to buy a house, I want a house that I want, not a house that I have to settle for because this is what I can afford, you know?
Yeah.
But
Because I know people who have big families, have 3, 4 children, and have a house small as hell,
right,
and you know they're like, man, you know, I wish I could, you know, I wish I could have had a bigger house. And you see them still working the same job they are, barely moving up, barely getting a raise, and it's like that's depressing. I don't want to live that life.
right,
Like that. Like that's very depressing. Like some of the teachers are well off. I mean, they're getting paid just fine at military, but seeing others, I'm like, I don't want to go through that. It's kind of scary. It's kind of sad too,
right,
and it's just like I want to make it to where I can create my own money and create assets. So then I have the cash flow coming in and me not having to touch anything. Like if I'm getting an extra couple $1,000s a month because of my investments, like cool, this is money I'm not doing shit for and I'm getting.
right. It's like you
And
invested in it and you don't control if your money goes up or down. It's just, I mean, you control when you take your money out because it's going down or up,
mhm,
but really, you put your money in and you leave it, you know? I mean, I'm invested in a couple of things. I trust me 100%, took a risk on a company and I mean, I didn't lose thousands of dollars, but I've lost a couple of $100 in a bad investment because I didn't pull out right away. But you know, that's the risk of life. But that's also the thing, like with the whole teacher thing. You're saying like they're doing what they love, but it kills me to see that they're doing what they love, but not getting rewarded for it. You know, like you went to
mhm.
school to be a teacher and you got the teaching job, and you love teaching, but you're barely living. And to me, it's like awesome. You're living your dream, but are you really living your fucking life? Like,
And that's also the thing. It's like I don't want to work so much that I'm not living a life. Like I know, you know, starting a company, doing a bunch of other stuff, I have to grind my ass, you know, to get the life I want. But it's like I don't want to work so much to the point where I'm not living a life. Like, and then the only amount of life I can live is that 1 or 2 week I get because of work, and that
right,
is it. And it's like no, because what if um we have a successful month and I want to take the team out on a nice time out. Like
right,
hey, we did really good. Let's go out. Let's go out for a couple of days. Let's go out for a week or so and head out to this place. I'm like, I don't want it to where it's only that week or two that allows me to have that, because it's like, well, what if I have stuff happening? I want to take a week off. Like, oh well, you know, a bunch of factors come in. You're like, I, I need it. Like, I really
right.
need this time
And
off.
that's the thing
And
is like big companies where you're, you know, the grunt, you just bust your ass off. You're like, hey, I need like a week off. I'm tired. You know, this and that. And they're like, oh, well, you don't have enough hours saved up to take time off, so no, can't do it. And then you're like, no, fuck it. I planned this vacation 2 years ago. I'm taking this time off. And you get back from your vacation, and it's like, hey, we got to let you go because you just fucking. It's like, oh, that's shitty. I mean, that's why I like where I work, because they're like, you know, you get personal days right away, and they're very understanding. Like, yeah, I work Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Sometimes longer, but you know, and then sometimes a 5-hour shift on Saturday. And you know, I get it because it's like I love what I do. When I'm going to work, I'm enjoying myself. It's not like I'm like, ugh, this sucks. You know, I mean, yeah, it's like, oh, this sucks. My body hurts. I'm doing all this heavy lifting, but by no means am I doing grunt work. This is something I wanted to do. The job got offered to me. They wanted me. They take care of you. I mean, obviously, it's not just a factory where you're making engines. This is like someone wants this specific engine, you make it. And a lot of the times it's celebrities, you know. We never get to see them, unfortunately, but, you know, they'll send someone to pick it up, and there you go. But, you know, that's like you said, you want to reward. That's why I think the United States has such, you know, their unemployment rates and this and that. I don't think it's people don't want to work necessarily. I think it's just they don't want to work for these assholes, you know, where it's like,
like,
I mean, when my son was born, they were going to give me a day off they're like, oh, well, enjoy your day and then come back after that. And it's like, and I told them, I was like, no, one, I had a child very young, planned.
Mm-hmm.
Just putting that out there. It wasn't like a mistake where it's like, oops, my bad. No, it was planned, the girl I was with at the time, we were like, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately it didn't work out with me and my son's mom. No hate to her. She's a wonderful mother. But, I told them, I was like, I'm not taking just one fucking day. Okay, listen, that's not happening. And, but also at the time, I was obviously working corrections and they were like, yeah, you're right. You just had a fucking kid. Good. You may have just cussed us out and yelled at us because this and that, but you're right. We were wrong. And that's why I like working there, because it's like, you got, like, I think it was like 3 mental health days a month. So if you were just having a bad, you see some shit working there. And, sometimes it affects you and it's like, I need a mental health day. You call in and tell them, they're like, okay, cool, whatever. All right, see you later. Bye.
Yeah.
But, and that's why, like I said, the whole unemployment rate thing, it's like I said, I don't think it's like people just don't want to work for assholes. Not that they don't want to work. It's like, man, I got hired at this place and I needed to take time off because my grandma died or my mom died, and they said no. And so I was like, no, fuck you, my mom died. And then I came back the next day and, I didn't have a job.
And that's kind of why I like my generation, because, well, I guess our generation, because we were born in the same time, is because we're starting to see the bullshit that some people go through, and we're like, we don't want that. Like,
right.
Why should we go through that?
Why should we want that?
We see what it causes. We see what it does to some people. It's like, why do we want that? We don't want that.
I can tell you, like, when I first started working, and I don't know how it is for other people like you or not, but, like, I had a shitty boss in one of my first jobs, and I was like, wow, did my parents fucking go through this and they're still doing it? I was like, no, fuck that. I am not going to do that. I even had a sit down talk with my dad. I'm like, is your boss an asshole? And he goes, yeah, son, but, you got to work your ass off if you want to do this. And I was like, I don't like that. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm all for bust your ass. But bust your ass is what makes you happy and it's rewarding. Not just because you have to do it to survive and then you get your paycheck at the end of the week and it's $230 because of all this and that, and then your body's hurting and you're tired and you're stressed, If you're busting your ass, do it for something that pays off, Like, yeah, like I get off of work and my body hurts, but that's just because I'm lifting heavy shit and my feet hurt, It's not because they're like, oh, fucking, with whips and chains and smacking you and, like, oh, work, do my job. No, like, this company takes care of you, Like, today, I left early. I told them, I was like, hey, I gotta go. And they were like, okay, cool. See you tomorrow. I was like, awesome. And, because, like, I'm so used to being like, oh, they're going to yell at me. Oh, no, they're going to yell at me. And I was like, shitting my pants. And they're just like, okay, see you tomorrow. Enjoy your night. I'm like, oh, okay.
And that's like how you said, like, I've gone through a lot of shitty bosses. I'm like, people go through this. They're like, oh yeah, and I don't like work hard to impress them because they get rewarded and you don't.
Right, exactly.
Work hard to impress not only them but impress their bosses, so they get rewarded, but you don't. You get a pizza party. You get food in the break room.
Right.
It's like, I don't want that. Why should I bust my ass to not get rewarded? If I can bust my ass and not a paycheck, I get money wired into my account that's like $25,000. It's like I got that money because I worked for that.
Right.
I didn't have to rely on this. I didn't have to bust my ass to prove to my boss that I'm a good worker. It's like, I busted. I told myself I could do it. I worked hard for myself and it paid off. I got this coming in. I have this, I have that, and I'm like, this is much better to me rather than bust my ass off and stay a couple little time of overtime and say, oh, after taxes, your check went up $80.
Right.
It's like, $80? Like, for staying late? Like, that's dumb.
Right. And it's like, okay, cool. But then you look at tax and you're like, oh, you would have gotten this, but we took out a total of like $230. And it's like, why? Come on, man. It's like, so that overtime did nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why it's just like, work for when you start and work when you're done, because sometimes when you work too much, you're like, sometimes depending on how much overtime is allowed, because depending on the company, they might not say, hey, we're going to crack down on overtime for these next couple of months because we're down, so you're going to have to work from the dot to the other dot. You can't go over. And
Right.
if you
And so,
do, we're going to have a talk.
right. And it's like,
And it's like,
oh, I clocked out a minute late and you still get this talk. It's like, what the fuck is a minute going to do to you?
yeah. And it's like these like healthcare workers that work 12-hour shifts, and they might think, oh yeah, look at all this money that I'm making. It's like, some of you guys are on salary, so really, yes, it can be some great money you're making, but you are also on salaried, so that 12 hours, you can work 14 hours and your check is still going to be the same.
Right. It's the set amount, and it's not like, and they don't
even
realize
hourly,
that because, and that's what a lot of people don't realize, like, especially salary people I've noticed, is they, oh, well, yeah, I worked overtime today. Did they tell you were going to get like a little bit of a bonus on your check for that? No. Well, if you're on salary, you're going to get the same thing you get every pay period. And they're like, oh, yeah, they didn't think about that. Because, like, I mean, I've known a couple of people that, graduated, not even just from Minutair, but like from Bluffs, that are like, hey, man, I got a job that's salaried. Isn't that cool? And I'm like, I mean, depending on your salary, just you got to realize you're getting a set amount each month, that totals up to your salary that you agreed on. And they're like, oh, that sucks. That does. Oh, wow. I was like, yeah, if you really look at it, I mean, don't get me wrong. If your salary is like $500K a year, you're going to be fucking set, dude. Like, but, if you go there and you're like you said, some of these, like, CNAs and nurses and stuff, their salary is like 50 grand a year. And it's like, oh yeah, that's livable if you're a single person with no pets, no, roommate, and you pay like $800 a month in rent, but you add in, nurses who have a kid and maybe don't have, like a husband or the boyfriend around. So they're raising a child by themselves. They're raising, they have pets. They might be a family person and their family's struggling, so they're helping their family on top of their own bills. And it's like $50K kind of goes down the drain pretty quick, So it's like, yeah, it sounds exciting because it's like, oh yeah, I'm getting $3,000 a month, and it's like, okay, take away your rent, take away your phone bill, take away your gas, take away your electric, food, groceries, stuff like that. It's not that good.
And that's also another thing, because the title may sound good, where it's like, oh yeah, like I want to be an RN because my cousin's an RN. She's making great money. She's making like $80,000 a year. I'm like, that's good. That's perfect. She's making that. But as time changes, as inflation happens and a bunch of other stuff happen, that 80,000 can only go so far, because if now they're making 80,000. Now it's they get a new car, not a 15,000, 20,000. They now want to be driving a Suburban. They want to now be driving a $40,000, $45,000 vehicle. So they have to finance that. Now they want to go get a house with their husband, or maybe they still are in an apartment and maybe want to move up. That's called lifestyle inflation. Now they want to move up. Now your $7,000 a month goes down to $3,000, and you're like, and because again in the book it said it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep.
Right.
And
exactly,
because you can make 80,000, but at the end of the month, how much of it have you kept?
Right.
Like, oh yeah, I still have 2,000. It's like, from 7,000 to 2,000. That's kind of bad. You're spending more than 50% of your month's check. It's like that's really bad.
That's the thing, is like, your example of like, my friend is making 80,000 as a registered nurse. It's like, okay, but her 80,000 now was like 100,000 when she started, but because of inflation, it's just money doesn't spend the same. The economy, like, just because you're both making 80,000 now if you were making 80,000 like 5 years ago, that 80,000 might as well have been 100,000 just because it was a better time. The economy wasn't as bad. And now that 80,000 is basically worth like 40,000. It's half of what it says it is, just because, yeah, you're making 80,000 a year, but the price of everything has gone up. So, like, I mean, like, before we moved out of our other house that we were in, got a note in the mail from the landlord, and he's like, oh, by the way, if you decide to, release with us, rent's going to go up $150 extra a month. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no. And it's like, and like people get mad. It's like, oh, well, the landlord's an asshole. It's like, the landlord's doing that because he's fucking struggling. Property tax is going up. He's got his own stuff. He has to, like, his realtor's license and stuff that he's got to keep up on. It's not like he's just like, oh, I'm broke and want money, rent's raised. It's he's his company's struggling or he's struggling. So it's not something where it's like a money, like, and that's the thing. That's what's so fucked up about like people's mindsets. It's like with the whole like gas raising, like, don't get me wrong, I love when you're paying like $2 and under for fucking gas. But there's also reasons as to why it's so high. And I'm one of those people who's like, it fucking happens, that's the world, we can't stop it, so why are we arguing? Like, what? Just deal with it. It'll go down. Trust me, it's not going to go down as fast as you want to. It'll go back down. But I'm also one of those people who are just like, politics, I can't do anything to change. Like, they say that my vote matters, and sure it does in certain elections, but like in the long run, does it really? Like, I'm one person. If 6 billion people say yes and I'm one person, they're like, your vote matters, say no, and I say no, it's me against 6 billion people. What am I gonna fucking do? My vote doesn't matter. And so that's why, like, I live my life where it's like, I don't give a shit who's president. Run the country the best you can. Don't bring us to fucking war. Don't get us nuked. You win in my book.
Basically, I mean, that's really how it should be, and that's why sometimes when I'll see a lot of these people, they like to staple themselves of, I'm an LN, I'm an RN, I'm anything in the medical field. Like, it's perfect. Congratulations. You look like you're winning life. But if you're starting to, you may have pretty good salary, but now that you're doing a lifetime inflation, you may look like you're making a lot of money, but at the end of the day, how much of this are you starting to keep? And so now you may look like you're living the shit, but these purchases you're making, it may look cool, it may look good on photos, but really, how good is it in the long run? Because 2 years from now, congratulations, you got a raise of $10,000. That's a couple hundred more in your check. Now you want to get more,
right? Yeah,
because of that, and now you're stuck in that same rat race and whatnot. But
right,
I don't know. That's why I want to push myself for more, push to get more. I've already promised my parents I'm gonna retire them, so they don't have to again work till they die.
right.
I want to retire them so then they can finally relax and really, yeah, just kind of do that.
It's a good goal.
Yeah. Well, man, I don't think I have anything else to say. Trinity is kind of like, I don't want to say rushing me, but I always see her on her lunch, and so it's kind of just saying take your time, but kind of like in a way of
take your time, but get over here. Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, no, I feel you, brother.
Yeah. Hey, it was great. It was great talking to you again. You just came to backup. It just
hey, it worked out. I'm happy to do it. Happy support.
I was glad you answered and was up to it, because I've gotten so much rejected. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you knew me. Why are you kind of scared to even go on there? I mean, or it's like I get left on scene. Like, I just fucking sent Yesenia a message. I'm like, I know her. She somewhat knows me. I mean, we went to the same high school. Let me try to get her. Leave me on red. I'm like, oh, thank you.
Like, that's how it is. All right.
I'm like, thank you. And a bunch of other people. I tried getting Jackie Sanchez. I'm like, I don't really talk to you, but I know your family. We've sent. I mean, it would be a great way to conversate. Oh no, I'm pretty busy. It's like okay. It's like,
well, like I
just
said,
say no.
Like I said, I'm very supportive. If I can help in any way, if I can do it, you know.
Hey, fuck it. But yeah, again, thank you for coming on. Hell, if Brandon listens to this,
Yeah,
or
Brandon.
sees the post,
Yeah, Brandon, get your shit together, man.
fucking, let's see.
Yeah.
But this will be out Sunday at 10. So
Awesome. Sounds
then you
great.
might see me share it. You might see me share it and all that fun stuff. But
Alrighty.
anything else you have to say?
I don't think so. Just, keep fucking killing it, bro. Proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Do you want to close it? Do you want to just say the goodbyes or anything?
Oh, I wouldn't know how to. I'll listen to you do it.
I just kind of just say, bye. Yeah, it's kind of just
Okay. Bye,
really
people,
what I do.
Bye, people listening.
All right. I mean, to the 4 or 5 that listen, but hey, fuck it.
Thanks for fucking supporting my boy
small.
Marco.
Exactly.